Hi, it's Sharon Pendlington from Personal Nutrition, and I'm happy to have with me here today Alexandra Goldwell. She's a registered clinical counselor, and she's been working with women with anxiety for the last few decades. So welcome, Alexandra.
Thank you, Sharon. Great.
Thank you. I was hoping to dig a little bit deeper into this common health concern because it does affect so many of us, anxiety, whether it's kind of over worrying or whether it's clinical anxiety. And in my own practice, I support people to address the nutritional deficiencies that might be contributing to their anxiety, but there's almost always other underlying factors that need to be addressed to see significant results.
Yes.
So that's what I was hoping we could talk about today.
Great.
In your own practice, Alexandra, what do you notice as some underlying factors that contribute to anxiety?
Yeah, well, thanks, Sharon. I'm glad you mentioned the variety in anxiety because there can be, over worrying just due to some situation in life, staying up at night or really worried about something, nervous about it. And then there can be clinical anxiety. So there's great variety, and we have to think of anxiety. So there's different needs for generally, because I've seen people on all parts of that continuum. What's common that I've noticed is that underneath anxiety is there's always other emotions, and you can think of anxiety as covering up emotions and energy really that wants to come out. So sometimes that's just anger, just power. It's just action that needs to be taken, but there's energy that wants to move. And when it's stuck in some part of the body, generally in that mid section of our body, the solar plexus, we feel that buzzing that kind of won't shut off, difficult to settle, difficult to feel really relaxed and at ease. So that's the first thing that's kind of an underlying cause.
Very interesting. I had an example just last night where I was over worrying. My daughter was, we've been talking about my daughter being sick, and she was coughing and up in the middle of the night, and I woke my husband up and I was like, we need to do something about this. Like, what are we going to do? We need to make a plan. Who's taking her to the doctor? Are we going to ER? What are we doing? And it was that feeling of anxiety that I could feel in my belly.
Yes.
So very interesting that this is new to me about it actually being stuck energy that needs to come out, but that really resonates with me. Yeah.
It makes sense. Like, you needed to take action. You needed to feel somehow in control of your daughter's sickness, right? And this is what happens with anxiety, whether it's about, anxiety about a test, anxiety at work, anxiety about an interaction with a colleague, an interaction with a spouse, what somebody's thinking of you, what am I going to do with my life? There's so many different thoughts that can contribute to anxiety. And so that's another whole layer. When I work with somebody about understanding where something's coming from, anxiety or otherwise, we always have to look at the interconnection of the thoughts and the emotions in the body and what's contributing to what. And so once that's teased apart, but certainly there's always emotions that have to come out, and often work with the types of thoughts that the person has and practice some skills at having a sense of control over thoughts or knowing what to do when they're really racing. So that's another kind of key factor.
Okay, so when you talk about skills, I'm really interested to know, so what do we do about it? How do we feel better? So, do you have one or two tips that women could use, maybe even the next time they're over worrying or feeling anxious?
Yes, exactly. Great question. So the first thing is you can't fix it immediately. It's really important to know that. You can't make it go away like that. It's just, and that can actually make a person more anxious when you feel a sense of, I can't make this stop, I can't control it. So even with something as extreme as panic attacks, what you want to do instead is completely focus, like learn, this is more mindfulness techniques or meditative techniques, learn to focus on one spot ahead of you or hold on to something and just focus on that thing and see if you can find your breath in your body somewhere. Now, when panic attack is racing, you almost have to wait until it slows. it's very difficult to control that physiological response at the moment. And that's what I see with you or your daughter or somebody that's worrying. One thing to know is that you have to just surrender to it. You can't control it in that moment. But what we can control is like developing and practicing the skills in a preventative way, so that when anxiety shows up, you're not adding extra panic to it or adding extra thoughts that are blaming yourself, judging yourself, making the situation wrong, labeling yourself as having some chronic issue. Really, we have to surrender to anxiety when it comes, like most emotions, but we can prevent it over time. We can prevent it from coming so often or so intensely.
Okay, so in the moment, recognizing that we can't control it, but that if we have developed some skills ahead of time, that we could use mindfulness techniques and, you know, other techniques that allow us to focus. Is that
Yeah, I mean, your anxiety, for instance, last night wasn't like an too extreme of a thing, although it probably felt very extreme for a few minutes. So in that case, you do have some control, but the first thing to do in your control is to just go, whoa, I'm intensely anxious. Like I just want to change something for her. I want to know what's going on. I want an answer. And sometimes just taking action is going to move that anxiety. So sometimes that's necessary. And other times when one can't take action, like anxiety about the future or something like this, a future event or something, one has to sit in it. And that's what I mean, like by surrendering to it. Okay, I'm intensely worrying, or okay, I'm intensely panicking about my future right now, or about this upcoming situation. There, you just kind of have to sit and watch it. That's where skills come in really handy. And it could pass, or it could pass in much longer. But it will pass. All emotions always move.
Right, right. Thank you. So if there was one thing that you wanted women that are struggling with anxiety to know, what would it be?
Okay, the one thing that I want women to know is you are intensely powerful. And anxiety is a way that our power gets trapped. It's just one other way that energy gets stuck and identified with something. But that anxiety is actually a symptom of the incredible, powerful force of energy that you are. So for me, that's the main thing to know. It's not something wrong with you, but one has to learn how to transform that energy and ground it so one can feel, vital and alive. So that energy is not stuck in anxiety, but it's more vitality and aliveness and groundedness and power.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much, Alexandra, for sharing that perspective, because that's a new perspective for me, to be honest. I would love for everyone to explore Alexandra's website, because to be honest, it's probably the most beautiful website I've ever seen. It's www.alexandragoldwell.com, and she has some amazing offerings on there. She offers group as well as individual programs and sessions, and some of those are starting very soon, so please go check it out. Thank you again, so Alexandra.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Awesome to talk to you. See you.
Wishing everyone more joy and vitality, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Awesome. Bye-bye.